if we're going to go on mission, then we know it's going to cost us something. I mean, that's just common sense. I mean, if you're going to go on a mission trip, you know it's going to cost you time from work. It's going to cost you money. It's going to cost you something. And a true follower of Christ is willing to pay the cost, whatever that is. That's a sign that being a true follower, it's a sign that we're all in. Peter, James, and John left the Zebedee Fishing Company when they followed Jesus. Now, ironically, it was right after their greatest catch. They caught the most fish they'd ever caught on a day that nobody was catching fish. And then Jesus says, "Follow me." And they did. I remember leaving my job when God had called me to plant this church. And it was the last week of my job there. And I knew God had called me to do this. And so I was all in. I was out of there. But I remember getting a memo that week that our health benefits at that job were about to start paying our dental plan and vision. And I remember thinking, oh, what? And then I'm about to have a job making, really a lot less money and no benefits. I mean, no earthly benefits anyway. Look, it may not cost each of us the same thing, but there's a price to pay. My work associates, they knew not to ask me to do certain things, like going out and partying and things like that, because they knew I was a Christian. Shortly after college, I realized that, I had not always lived the way I maybe should have as a Christian in front of the people I work with, and God got a hold of me on that. And so I had determined that when I started new jobs, I was going to tell them right off the bat, hey, I'm a Christian, and I wasn't going to beat them over the head with the Bible or anything like that, but I want to know really to keep me accountable, to make me live the way I should live. So, I mean, that's a price because, I know people, they can talk about you behind your back, if at work. But, it's going to cost something to be a follower of Christ. And, the costs that we pay here are nothing compared to the great benefits that we get in heaven. In fact, Jesus tells his disciples in Luke 14, he tells them, he wanted them to know that to follow him cost them everything. He wanted them to know that they had to lay their life down to follow him. You know why he did that? Jesus wasn't going to bait and switch. He wanted them to know exactly what it cost. He wasn't about hurting feelings. He just wanted them to know the true cost to be a disciple. Because he wanted, he didn't want anybody bailing out on him down the road. He going, oh, I didn't know it was going to cost this much. No, he wanted them to know the cost. In Luke 14:27, Jesus gives us the cost of discipleship. He says, whoever does not bear his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. Jesus wants his followers to know that it costs everything. He wants us to die to self and to live for him daily. He's not running a bait and switch campaign. He generally wants us to know that he's demanding everything from us because he doesn't want us bailing out down the road. Now, there are three things that you normally hear associated with giving. That is when we're giving our all to Christ. Typically, we hear this, time, talent, and our treasure. And that's an easy way to remember the cost. But ultimately, it is a matter of the heart. What are you passionate about? I mean, with your time and your talents that you use and your treasure. And all of us understand that our family life or personal life has a budget of time or money. We've only got so much of each. So whether we're organized on budgets, if we're doing that real well or not, we understand that. If there's something we can't do, let's say we say, I can't do this or that on a Friday night, but then something that we're passionate about comes up, all of a sudden we change our whole schedule to where we can do that thing that we really want to do because we're passionate about that on a Friday night. You know what I'm talking about. See, we always have room or make room, whether it is with time or money, for that which means the most to us. The call of the Great Commission is for Jesus to be that one thing, that thing that comes before everything else, that we will, we all of a sudden we dig up the money because it has to do with Jesus, if he's our top priority. All of a sudden we make the time if it has to do with Jesus. When it comes to things that are dear to you, are money and time really an object? Let me ask us all as we end this series, what part of you is holding you back from being all in with God? What is stopping you? What is preventing you from getting up and going with all your being on mission with God? So congratulations. You made it. You made it. You made it to the end of this series. You've made a commitment to the sermon, to your small group, and all of that was just a start. So where are you going to go? Where are you going to go from here? All right, are you going to take the necessary steps? The next steps for you. The next steps are different for each one of us. So what are the ones? What are the ones that you need to take? Don't worry about a big giant leap of faith. What is the next step you need to take as far as growing as a disciple, a follower of Jesus? Take the time, talk to the group, talk about that amongst yourselves, and just get to that point. And then you talk to God about it. Say, God, help me take that next step. Ultimately, being disciples, we're just a bunch of steppers. And it's just a journey. It's a Christian life. It's just a journey of taking next steps. I know it might sound crazy, might sound redundant or whatever, but ultimately, it is. We're just a bunch of steppers, and so I encourage you to take whatever that next step is.